What's up, guys? Thank you for clicking on the video. So this is a rare opportunity to kind of experience my C5 Z06 in a different kind of way, because I've had it for some time, but for the past week, as you know, if you watch the channel, I just went and got a 1984 C4 up in Washington State, drove it down the coast, across Oregon, Idaho, down through Nevada. So I've spent the past week and several thousand miles in a C4, a 1984 C4 with a Crossfire. So that's got the 4+3 manual gearbox in it. It's a well-kept car, so I feel like it's a pretty decent representation. So I thought this was a great opportunity. My senses are a bit reset, so this would be a great video for someone who either owns a C4 and wonders what it would be like to go to a C5, or if you have a C5 and are wondering, you know, if I bought an old C4, what would that feel like? So I'm going to kind of do a couple different videos here. Obviously, check out my last video to where we picked up that car. Great trip, cool video. This one, I'm going to kind of do my reaction to a C5Z. Now, this is a modded C5 Z06, but it's typical of what someone could buy on the used market. A few mods, a little bit different feeling, not completely stock. But it's the subtleties that are going to be the big difference. And I really want to express what it feels like. So that's what you're going to see on this video, guys. Stick around. You're watching Night Drive TV. So, you know, after getting in and out of the C4 for the past week, what's immediately noticeable and what you could see GM put a lot of energy and effort into is this experience right here. And it's with the door open. It's with the opening here. That's available, and it's the space that's down here between the dash. This feels very cramped in the C4s, and just overall this opening feels small. Okay, interesting. So that is the first time I got in the car, and obviously there's a familiarity. There's a familiarity with this car in general, but ingress, egress, obviously I don't think it's an unknown that it's much easier with the C5. I can tell you immediately what I notice, though, is a sense of roominess. Now, the C4, it has leather seats in it. It's a very optioned C4, so I feel like I sit very high. If you guys wonder why I'm always out of breath, it's because what I do before I get shooting is just make cameras and tightening and aiming and running around and everything like that. So sometimes I'm out of breath. I'm actually just got out of the shower, so I'm hot. But overall, what I notice is the rear view mirror feels much further from me. The dash definitely feels further from me. I just feel like I have a lot more room to move around. Now, the seats, you can definitely notice the difference. The C5 seats are not known for being fantastic. I guess in a sense, it feels not as surprisingly different as I kind of thought it would. I was thinking I would get down in the C5 again and be like, wow, wide open space. But I guess it's just that subtle difference in the C4 that makes me think it's definitely much different. Obviously, key isn't on the column. Doors feel a lot lighter pulling them shut. So there's definitely differences here. For some reason it says I'm on reserve fuel. Oh wow. So clearly the shifter, way different. The gearbox, the 4+3 gearbox is a very notchy, almost feels like a gated gearbox, like a Testarossa or something like that. And I compared that car to the Testarossa a bit because it feels like very gated, click, 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 click. And I kind of like the sound and the feel of that. But so yeah, I'm definitely picking up a lot more, in a sense, refinement. I really kind of theorized as I was driving the C4, I'm like, maybe the C5 will feel cheapened in a sense, because, you know, when Russ McLean got involved with the C4 program was way over budget. GM was losing money on every C4 that they were selling, I would say about 1991 range. And so Russ McLean came in, he kind of resorted everything, got the C4 to the stage of profitability, but the C4 Corvette was given a sunset order, which in GM speak is kind of like, you know, we're not making this anymore. You know, there's stories about this, how Russ McLean and several different people, they took from different budgets to create prototypes of the C5. And you know, a big focus, and what I can tell you looks immediately different, is the width of this cabin. And I'm wondering what the dimensions are, but it's not so much the center console, it's my personal space feels definitely larger. And I do recall that they had 2 engineers that worked on the C5 program, and one was like 5 foot tall and one was 6'7" or something like that. And they used those 2 guys to kind of benchmark the range, and they knew that they wanted to have the ability to accommodate a lot of different body types and sizes. Now that led to a very unsupportive seat for the C5, but I can tell you that in terms of helmet room, sitting height, I feel actually lower in this car, and that's very surprising to me, because my recollection from when I had my 1992 was that I sat lower in it. So it's very interesting to me right now that I actually feel more down in this car versus the C4. That's strange to me. Obviously the gearbox, very refined feeling. That's crazy. Pedal spacing and positioning, immediately much better. I'm struggling with heel toe in the C4. It's almost a full ball of my foot and then swinging my heel. I can do a kind of a toe. If you check out my video that I did in heel toe downshifting and things in this car is very good for that. Very easy to heel toe this car, one of the easiest I've ever driven. C4 kind of takes it up a notch, kind of reminds me of a late 90s air-cooled Porsche. Very difficult to impart enough pressure with your foot and swing your heel or do the side of your foot. So everything initially, strangely, a lot more refinement, which you would expect. I mean, obviously 84, this is an 02, obviously based on the 1997 design, which was probably began in 94. So you're really talking probably about 12 to 14 years, plus a lot more computer design involved in the C4 or C5 platform versus early C4 especially. So yeah, let's get driving. This is going to be crazy because I drive this car all the time, but the throttle, this is throttle by wire versus a cable on the Crossfire. The power delivery and everything is going to be a lot different with this LS. Obviously makes a lot more power, but I've been surprised by a little bit of the punchiness, or at least my perception of a little bit of the torque that the Crossfire does have. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. So let me go ahead, and I got to shut the hood. I did have to jump this, so I'm going to kind of skip to backing out here, and we're going to see what happens. I'm just letting it warm up a little bit. Okay, so interestingly, the C4 seatbelt is kind of strange. You have to almost kind of curl it downward to get it in. I found it kind of annoying. This is much easier. Like as much as I like the C4 e-brake, and it's an interesting spot by the floor, there's no denying the simplicity and ease of having it right here. So I definitely like that. Clutch feels way different, and this is different. A lot less creaking. Oh wow. So oh yeah. Oh, shorter. Oh wow, that's a lot different. Okay, shorter throw, touch your brakes, touch your throttle onset, very instant power. That's strange. The throw's a lot different. Okay, so I mean, wow. I mean, it's like strange. I expected differences, but then I didn't. Oh, let me go this way. Curious about the steering. Okay, so that's interesting. My car, despite a smaller diameter steering wheel, square setup in the front, O'Connell sway bars, and a lot of things, the on-center feel of the 84 steering actually feels sharper. This actually feels a little numb on center, which is something that a lot of people, you know, especially that road race and autocross the C5 talk about a lot, but it's very strange to me that it's as noticeable as it is, because my car is a lot sharper than a stock C5, because I've made the diameter of the wheel smaller to kind of increase the rate, and just having the front square setup and the coilovers and the spring rates. I mean, I have a lot more. Okay, yeah, the 4-speed thing's still messing with me, because I was 4 gears and you're out, now I got 5. So that's interesting. Strangely, in some ways, and this is going to be inherent to the LS6 in the LS1, not so much the LS3 or like a bigger displacement, but the way GM geared and cammed that Crossfire is definitely feeling a little bit punchier down low, which is very strange, as to where this car is feeling maybe a slight bit sluggish, like very crispy as soon as I touch the throttle. That feels good, but let me see. She's spinning and going just for a very slight second. And you know, I did perceive that, you know, GM had a lot of challenges with EPA and with emissions to get something that felt like a Corvette out of, you know, the power restricted and emissions choked old, what was that, an L83, I guess. And so the way they did it, it seemed like, is they just cammed it to where it has this real small zone, cammed it, intaked it, everything, to where it has this zone of a real torque punch, and then they geared it aggressively to where the car actually does feel quick in a small zone of in a small envelope, I should say, as to where this may have this one little area to where it's cammed, obviously, to be a little bit more broad in terms of rev range and performance, maybe sacrificing a little torque down low in the LS6's sense, but clearly after, I don't know, 2,500 RPM or 3 grand, I mean, it's just a whole different car at that point. The C4 just completely runs out of steam very quickly. But surprisingly, around town in a very small envelope and controlled environment, the C4 actually feels very quick around town. And oh, that clutch is different. So this clutch very, very grabby, but yeah, I mean, this is, I can tell you there's not, it doesn't feel like I'm driving a completely altogether different monster like I kind of expected. So that's interesting. I guess what the C5 is doing also is it's very good at masking how quick it is, especially the way my car is set up. You can, you know, the C4 feels a lot more involved in the sense that your perception of speed and danger, so to speak, is a little bit more up front and center, versus this is kind of masking itself because it's a better chassis. It's a lot more controlled with a lot more grip. So in a sense, I don't feel like I'm really ripping like I kind of feel in C4. So it's, what's interesting about that is I think if you bought an early C4, it maybe feels a little bit more fun in the sense, and I think it might just be a perception thing, not actuality. Obviously you're not going as fast. Very similar. I mean, I'm obviously used to this car, and the braking is night and day difference, but these are things that can all be kind of addressed with pads, rotors, just a fluid change, things like that. Obviously I could feel a lot more chassis rigidity, not as much as I thought I would though. I actually thought I would feel more, because the C4, you could hear it flex around you when you really twist it. Lift one wheel, you could hear it in the roof panel. You can actually hear the car twisting. Still feels okay stiff, but not as stiff as this. The hydroformed rails, the things that were in the C5, gave it a torsional rigidity element, and when you add the Z06 and the bonded roof, the hardtop, it was the stiffest of all C5s and the lightest. So in terms of lightness, I definitely, this car feels lighter and is lighter, so that's pretty apparent, pretty easy to perceive in the front end even, especially. And now I have the square setup, so that will tend to make my front end feel a little bit punchier, a little bit more responsive. The C4 feels sluggish, but if you look at the scene in my last video, and I'll throw it right here, to where I'm kind of throwing the C4 around, I was very surprised at how much front grip that car had. And that's a Z51 1984, and some people don't know that that earliest 84 Z51 package was very stiff, and It was reviewed harshly, no pun like intended there, but it was reviewed harshly. People thought it was too stiff, but it really makes for the potential best handling C5 or C4, excuse me, that you can buy from the factory in terms of like spring rate. And so I think that that's what's giving me the perception of this kind of quick turn in and quick feel that my 92 frankly didn't have. My 92 to my recollection felt a bit mushy. And then this comes in, and this has the Magna steering in it to where it gets heavier as you go faster and things like that. I definitely still feel like I have a responsiveness here, but surprisingly, it's not making me say, man, thank God I own the C5Z. There's no, well, of course, if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick this car. This is a better car. It's a better car all around, mostly because of my interior room. The refinement that I do feel, that I really thought this was going to feel cheap, but it doesn't, and so that's interesting. Honestly, I'm a little struck by this, because I thought that C4 was really going to feel old in the sense, and surprisingly, I really think GM did a great job with that first iteration coming out of C3, which was like a truck frame or something, like a dual ladder, I guess what you would call it, like a ladder frame or something like that, to where C4 kind of started this architecture of these big sills and kind of something that somewhat extended into C5 era. Obviously much different again still, but I gotta sit and get a little air in here. It's hot in Vegas, and I got a jacket on. I never wear a jacket. So but yeah, I'm definitely surprised in many ways. And so I guess in conclusion, I would say, if you're coming from a C4 to a C5, yes, you're going to notice a lot of increased refinement. The car feels tighter, is definitely more roomy, more usable. But I just can't dismiss the fact that the C4 feels still very daily usable. Very practical, and that's the 84. And clearly, as they departed from 1989, last year of the digital dash, started changing the dash, got the 6-speed in there in 1989. Then in 1991, obviously went to the newer bumpers. The interior kind of evolved through that C4 era. It probably kisses much closer to what the C5 feels like, but coming from the 84, I must say that they did pretty well, and you could definitely own both. I don't think that I have a clear preference. I will always drive my Z06 probably the most, but it's very interesting. So I feel like I should jump in the C6 and see how that feels while I'm fresh. I don't know. But so yeah, guys, I mean, if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to throw a comment below. I'm going to do a full review on the C4, just kind of a real in-depth, a lot of quirks. This car feels very modern in the sense of everything, all the controls started to kind of find their place in the 90s, and to where even today it's only starting to change to where we're getting away from these traditional positions, where the wipers are, where the headlight controls are, where the AC controls radio, all that stuff. The 84 has a lot of these non-traditional kind of weird locations. So this feels like a more modern car, feels like something you could use more practically, I guess. But I will say that for the price of C4s, very unique car to drive around. It doesn't feel super old. It doesn't feel like you're driving something that was, maybe in the beginnings penciled in the 70s. Very surprising. So very interesting. I hope it gave you some insight if you're considering buying a C4, buying a C5, moving around. Just wanted to get the video up, guys. So my camera fell. So I hope you appreciated the video. Let me know in the comments below. This was a quickie. I'm actually planning some things with my headlight kits that you've seen on the C5. Going to try and run up to Salt Lake here tonight and see what happens. So catch you on the next one, guys. Just kind of a quickie. I wanted to get it fresh, and I wanted, man, I might be able to convey something. So I don't know. Let me know if you got any insights. Maybe you're a C5 and a C4 owner, something like that. But catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you for watching Night Drive TV.